What if I told you that your conscious mind is merely the gatekeeper to a vast unconscious realm that truly controls your behavior? And today I shall reveal how my revolutionary work ethic unlocked the secrets of the human psyche that continue to influence your life this very moment. Consider this paradox, if you will. The most profound insights into human behavior come not from observing what people do, but from analyzing what they refuse to acknowledge. The unconscious mind speaks volumes through our silences. For decades, physicians treated only the physical manifestations of psychological distress, the hysteria, the paralysis, the inexplicable pains, while ignoring the true source. I developed a method to access what lies beneath, and today I shall demonstrate how my disciplined daily routine made possible the creation of psychoanalysis, a science that continues to shape how you understand yourself over a century later. By the end of our session together, you will understand how structured habits can unleash rather than restrict your creative potential, a counterintuitive truth that revolutionized the study of the mind. Let us begin where all analysis must, with the foundations. I was born in 1856 in Moravia to a wool merchant father and his third wife. My family moved to Vienna when I was 4 years old, a city that would become synonymous with my work despite its initial resistance to my ideas. Have you ever wondered why you remember certain childhood experiences vividly while others vanish entirely? This selective memory is no accident. It reveals the protective mechanisms of your psyche. My own childhood was marked by intellectual promise. I graduated from the gymnasium with honors and entered medical school at the University of Vienna in 1873. But it was my later work with Jean Martin in Paris that truly awakened my interest in the psychological origins of physical symptoms. These patients exhibited paralysis, seizures, and sensory losses with no discernible physical cause. Conventional medicine had failed them. What I discovered, and what fundamentally changed the course of psychology, was that these symptoms could be alleviated through talk, through bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness. Every one of you watching has experienced this phenomenon. That moment when you suddenly understand the true motivation behind a repeated behavior, the relief that comes with insight. This is the foundation of psychoanalysis, the talking cure. But how did I develop such revolutionary ideas while my colleagues remained trapped in outdated thinking? The answer lies not merely in intellectual capacity, but in the extraordinary work ethic I maintained throughout my professional life. If you're finding value in understanding these psychological principles that shape your daily experiences, consider supporting this exploration of the mind by subscribing to this channel. Your engagement allows us to continue uncovering the hidden forces that drive human behavior. Now, let us examine the daily routine that made possible the creation of an entirely new approach to understanding the human mind. My day began promptly at 7:00 a.m. with a cup of strong black coffee. Unlike many creative individuals who prize spontaneity, I maintained a schedule of remarkable consistency for over 40 years. Ask yourself, do you believe structure inhibits creativity? This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the creative process. In fact, it is precisely through routine that the mind becomes free to explore its deepest territories. By 8:00 a.m., I had read the morning newspaper and corresponded with colleagues across Europe. This communication was vital. Wrote thousands of letters throughout my career, many of which provide invaluable insights into the development of psychoanalytic theory. From 9:00 a.m. until 1:00 p.m., I conducted psychoanalytic sessions with patients. Consider the revolutionary nature of this work. Rather than prescribing medications or performing physical examinations, I simply listened. I allowed patients to free associate, to speak whatever came to mind without censorship. This famous couch you see became the centerpiece of psychoanalytic practice. I positioned myself out of the patient's sight to reduce my influence and to allow unconscious material to emerge more freely. The patient would lie here, looking at the ceiling, while I sat behind, taking notes and occasionally offering interpretations. You might wonder why this arrangement persists in psychoanalysis today. Consider how differently you speak when making direct eye contact versus when looking away. The removal of social cues allows access to deeper material, a technique I perfected through years of disciplined practice. After seeing patients, I would take lunch at precisely 1:30 p.m., often with my family. This midday break provided essential respite from the intense emotional work of psychoanalysis. In today's world of constant digital distraction, how many of you maintain clear boundaries between work and rest? The mind requires periods of both focused attention and relaxation to function optimally, a principle as true today as it was in Vienna at the turn of the century. If you're finding these insights valuable for understanding your own psychological patterns, consider subscribing to continue our exploration of the mind's hidden workings. Your engagement supports the continuation of this psychological journey. Following lunch, I would embark on a brisk walk through Vienna's streets regardless of weather. Physical movement stimulates mental clarity, a connection modern neuroscience has confirmed but which I intuitively understood. During these walks, I would often be accompanied by colleagues such as Ernest Jones, discussing cases and refining theories. Many breakthrough insights occurred not in my office, but during these ambulatory conversations. Consider how your environment influences your thinking. The grand architecture of Vienna, with its imperial splendor and bourgeois sensibilities, provided a backdrop against which I developed theories that would challenge societal conventions about sexuality. Aggression and the unconscious mind. By 3:00 p.m., I returned to my consulting room for another 3-hour session of patient analysis. This work was exhausting yet exhilarating. Each patient presented a new puzzle of the human psyche to be solved. My consulting room contained numerous ancient artifacts, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Chinese antiquities that surrounded me as I worked. These objects represented the timeless nature of human psychological struggles. The sphinxes, statues, and relics created a space where ancient wisdom met modern scientific inquiry. What objects surround you in your workspace? They reveal more about your unconscious desires and fears than you might realize. Our environments are never neutral. They are extensions of our internal psychological landscape. Between patient appointments, I would meticulously document my observations, building the case studies that would form the basis of works such as Studies on Hysteria, The Interpretation of Dreams, and 3 essays on the theory of sexuality. This disciplined documentation distinguishes the true scientist from the casual observer. While others might have noticed similar patterns in their patients, it was my systematic recording and analysis that transformed these observations into a comprehensive theory of mind. In our modern era of instant communication, how many insights are lost because they are never properly recorded? The discipline of writing forces clarity of thought, a practice as valuable for your self-understanding as it was for the development of psychoanalysis. After concluding patient sessions at approximately 7:00 p.m., my most productive writing hours would begin. With the day's clinical observations fresh in mind, I would retire to my study to transform these experiences into theoretical frameworks. Consider the difference between passive consumption and active creation. Many individuals today spend their evenings absorbing content rather than producing it. Yet it is in the act of creation, of organizing thoughts into coherent structures, that true intellectual advancement occurs. My writing process was methodical. I would first draft in longhand, then revise extensively before dictating to a typist. This multi-stage process allowed for refinement of ideas, a practice that stands in stark contrast to today's instant publication culture. Throughout this writing process, I would smoke cigars, approximately 20 per day. While I would not recommend this particular habit given modern medical knowledge, it served as a thinking aid and ritualistic element that helped me maintain concentration during long hours of intellectual labor. This brings us to my famous quote, "Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar." While psychoanalytic theory searches for symbolic meaning, we must also recognize that not everything carries unconscious significance. The discipline of analysis includes knowing when to interpret and when to accept the literal. What rituals accompany your most productive thinking? The external behaviors that accompany deep thought, whether pacing, doodling, or specific environmental preferences, are not mere habits but psychological tools that facilitate cognitive processes. I maintain this writing schedule even when facing significant physical discomfort. For the last 16 years of my life, I suffered from oral cancer resulting from my cigar habit, enduring 33 operations. Yet I continued to write, to see patients, and to refine psychoanalytic theory despite this adversity. This persistence exemplifies a core psychological principle. When one finds meaningful work, what I called external obstacles become surmountable. The psychologically healthy individual derives satisfaction from both love relationships and productive labor. If you're finding value in these psychological insights that can transform your understanding of productivity and purpose, consider subscribing to continue our exploration. Your engagement allows us to delve deeper into the principles that govern the human mind. Despite my rigorous work schedule, I maintained meaningful family relationships. My wife and I raised 6 children, and I took particular interest in the intellectual development of my youngest daughter, Anna, who would later become a distinguished psychoanalyst in her own right. How do you balance professional ambition with personal connection? This remains one of the central challenges of psychological health. The capacity to invest emotionally in both work and relationships distinguishes the well-integrated personality. Our family dinner at 8:00 p.m. provided essential social connection. During these meals, intellectual discussion was encouraged. My children were exposed to ideas and debates that shaped their own development. After dinner, I would often play card games, particularly with close friends including the physician, with whom I developed the earliest versions of psychoanalytic theory. These games served not merely as recreation but as opportunities for the mind to process complex problems indirectly. The psychological value of play for adults is significantly underappreciated in modern productivity culture. At approximately 10:30 p.m., I would read literature, Shakespeare, and other masters for at least 30 minutes before sleeping. This literary engagement informed my psychological theories in profound ways. The great writers understood human psychology intuitively before science could articulate it systematically. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, we find complex psychological portraits that anticipated many psychoanalytic insights about guilt, ambivalence, and unconscious motivation. Consider how Hamlet's famous soliloquy reveals the conflict between conscious deliberation and unconscious resistance to action. Literature provides a window into psychological processes that clinical observation alone cannot access. By midnight, I would retire to bed, often recording dreams upon waking. These dreams became the raw material for The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1900, a work I considered my most significant contribution to psychology. This balanced daily routine, structured yet allowing for intellectual exploration, solitary yet socially connected, created the conditions for psychological discoveries that continue to influence how you understand yourself today. If these insights into the relationship between routine and creativity resonate with your own experience, consider subscribing to continue our psychological exploration. Your engagement supports the continuation of this analytical journey. While my daily routine appeared solitary, I was actively building a community of like-minded analysts who would develop and disseminate psychoanalytic ideas. Beginning in 1902, the Wednesday Psychological Society met weekly in my home. This group, which later became the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society, included physicians and intellectuals interested in exploring the unconscious mind. These meetings followed a specific format. A member would present a paper, followed by vigorous debate. I encouraged intellectual challenge while maintaining the core principles of psychoanalysis. Consider how your own intellectual development is shaped by those with whom you engage. The mind requires both solitary reflection and collaborative challenge to develop fully. Who constitutes your intellectual community? As psychoanalysis gained recognition internationally, I maintained correspondence with practitioners in Budapest, Berlin, London, New York, and beyond. This global network ensured the survival of psychoanalytic ideas even as political circumstances in Europe became increasingly precarious. By 1938, the Nazi annexation of Austria made my position in Vienna untenable. As a Jew and the founder of a degenerate science in Nazi eyes, I was forced to flee to London with my family, bringing my precious antiquities and the famous couch that had heard countless patient narratives. Even in exile at age 82, suffering from cancer and adjusting to a new country, I maintained my disciplined work routine until shortly before my death in 1939. This persistence demonstrates a psychological principle central to resilience. Meaningful work provides stability during external chaos. The theoretical frameworks I developed through this disciplined approach, the structural model of id, ego, and superego, the psychosexual stages of development, the mechanisms of defense, the technique of free association continue to influence psychology, psychiatry, literature, art, and popular culture. Consider how frequently you used introduced, repression, projection, denial, Freudian slip, ego, unconscious motivation. These concepts have become part of how you understand yourself and others, whether or not you explicitly identify with psychoanalytic theory. If you're finding value in understanding these psychological principles that shape your daily experiences, consider supporting this exploration of the mind by subscribing to this channel. Your engagement allows us to continue uncovering the hidden forces that drive human behavior. How might my disciplined approach to intellectual work apply to your modern circumstances? Let us consider several applications of these principles. First, the power of structured routine. While contemporary culture often glorifies spontaneity and flexibility, my experience demonstrates that creative thinking flourishes within boundaries. The mind, when freed from constant decision-making about schedule, can dedicate its resources to deeper questions. Ask yourself, how much mental energy do you expend daily on decisions that could be standardized? By establishing rituals around work, meals, exercise, and rest, you liberate cognitive resources for more meaningful pursuits. Second, the value of documentation. My practice of meticulously recording observations, correspondence, and theoretical developments created an external memory system that enabled more complex thinking. In your digital age, you possess unprecedented tools for documentation, yet many fail to develop systematic approaches to capturing and organizing insights. Consider implementing a daily writing practice to clarify your thinking on matters of personal or professional significance. Third, the balance between solitude and community. My daily routine included periods of intense concentration and social engagement, both essential for psychological health and intellectual development. Modern technology enables constant connection, yet many experience profound loneliness. This paradox reflects a confusion between connectivity and meaningful engagement. Structure your day to include both genuine solitude for reflection and genuine connection for intellectual stimulation and emotional satisfaction. Fourth, the integration of physical and mental activity. My daily walks provided essential cognitive benefits that modern neuroscience has confirmed. Physical movement enhances creative thinking, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. How might you incorporate movement into your intellectual routine? Even brief walks between periods of concentrated work can significantly enhance cognitive performance and psychological well-being. Finally, consider the role of symbolic environments. My consulting room, filled with ancient artifacts, created a space that transcended the immediate moment and connected daily work to timeless human questions. What objects surround you as you work? Do they reflect deeper values and aspirations, or merely accumulate without intention? The external environment shapes internal processes in ways both subtle and profound. If these practical applications of psychological principles resonate with your experience, consider subscribing to continue our exploration of the mind's hidden workings. Your engagement supports the continuation of this analytical journey. Any honest examination of intellectual contribution must acknowledge criticisms and limitations. My theories and methods have faced substantial challenges throughout their development and continuing to the present day. Critics have rightly questioned the empirical basis of certain psychoanalytic claims. The difficulty of falsifying unconscious processes presents genuine scientific challenges. Modern psychology has developed more rigorous experimental methods to test hypotheses about human behavior. Yet the pendulum has perhaps swung too far toward observable behavior at the expense of subjective experience. The richness of inner life, dreams, fantasies, conflicts, ambivalences remains central to human psychology despite challenges in studying these phenomena systematically. Others have criticized the cultural and historical limitations of my perspective. As a man of the Victorian era, my views on gender, sexuality, and family dynamics reflected certain assumptions of that period that warrant reconsideration. What aspects of your own thinking remain bounded by contemporary assumptions that future generations might question? Intellectual honesty requires this reflexive awareness of historical contingency. The feminist critique of psychoanalysis has been particularly significant, challenging the phallocentrism of classical theory while often preserving the insights about unconscious processes and psychological development. Modern psychoanalytic approaches have incorporated these criticisms, developing more nuanced understandings of gender, more flexible therapeutic techniques, and more culturally sensitive applications of core insights. About unconscious motivation and developmental conflict. Perhaps most importantly, contemporary neuroscience has provided unexpected support for certain psychoanalytic concepts. The existence of non-conscious processing, the importance of early attachment relationships for brain development, and the role of implicit memory in shaping behavior all align with psychoanalytic insights despite emerging from entirely different research traditions. If you're finding value in this nuanced exploration of psychological theory and practice, consider subscribing to continue our intellectual journey. Your engagement supports the development of content that respects both historical contributions and contemporary advances in understanding the human mind. Beyond specific theories and techniques, my work raised fundamental philosophical questions about human nature that remain relevant today. First, the question of determinism versus free will. Psychoanalysis reveals how unconscious forces shape supposedly free choices, yet simultaneously offers the possibility of greater freedom through self-awareness. When you understand the unconscious motivations behind your behaviors, do you become more or less free? This paradox continues to challenge simplistic notions of human autonomy. Second, the relationship between individual psychology and cultural institutions. In works such as Civilization and its Discontents, I explored how civilization requires the repression of instinctual desires, creating an inevitable tension between individual satisfaction and social stability. This tension manifests differently across historical periods and cultural contexts, yet remains a fundamental aspect of human experience. Consider how your own culture balances individual expression against collective needs and how this shapes your psychological experience. Third, the status of self-knowledge. Psychoanalysis proposes that complete self-transparency is impossible. The unconscious, by definition, resists direct observation. Yet it simultaneously suggests that increased self-awareness is both possible and therapeutic. This epistemological humility distinguishes psychoanalysis from approaches that presume direct access to mental contents. The mind studying itself encounters fundamental limitations that any honest psychology must acknowledge. How comfortable are you with the notion that significant aspects of your motivation remain inaccessible to conscious awareness? This discomfort itself reveals something about our psychological need for the illusion of complete self-knowledge. Fourth, the relationship between past and present. Psychoanalysis proposes that early experiences shape later development in profound ways, yet simultaneously offers the possibility of reworking these influences through the therapeutic process. This tension between determinism and possibility reflects a fundamental aspect of human temporality. We are shaped by history, yet capable of reinterpreting that history in ways that open new futures. If these philosophical dimensions of psychological inquiry intrigue you, consider subscribing to continue exploring the deeper implications of how we understand the human mind. Your engagement supports content that connects psychological theory to fundamental questions of human existence. As we conclude our exploration of my work ethic and its relationship to psychological discovery, let us consider the broader legacy of psychoanalysis for contemporary understanding of the mind. From the initial discovery of the talking cure to contemporary, the central insight remains: psychological symptoms carry meaning that can be understood through careful attention to subjective experience. This humanistic approach stands in productive tension with more mechanistic models of mind. The disciplined routine I maintained throughout my professional life enabled sustained engagement with these complex questions. Structure provided the foundation for revolutionary thinking, a paradox worth considering in your own creative and intellectual pursuits. What daily practices might support your deepest work? Not merely productivity in the conventional sense, but the development of insights that contribute meaningfully to your field or community. The combination of rigorous observation, theoretical speculation, clinical application, and public dissemination created a model of intellectual work that integrated multiple faculties. This integration, rather than specialization in a single mode of inquiry, characterizes the most significant contributions to human understanding. As I once wrote, the voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. The patient, persistent application of reason to psychological questions, sustained day after day through disciplined routine, eventually transformed how humanity understands itself. This transformation continues through your engagement with these ideas. Each time you recognize an unconscious motivation, question a rationalization, or acknowledge ambivalence, you participate in the ongoing project of psychological self-understanding that psychoanalysis initiated. I invite you to consider what unconscious patterns might be shaping your daily routine, what defenses might be limiting your creative potential, what unacknowledged desires might be seeking expression through your work. These questions, uncomfortable yet potentially liberating, represent the enduring legacy of psychoanalytic inquiry. By facing them with courage and curiosity, you continue the intellectual journey that my disciplined daily practice made possible. In our next exploration, we shall delve into the mysterious realm that occupies 1/3 of your life yet remains largely unexplored, the world of dreams and their analysis. How did my revolutionary approach to dream interpretation, developed through years of documenting my own nighttime narratives, fundamentally change our understanding of the unconscious mind? What might your own dreams reveal about desires and fears you consciously deny? And how might the practice of dream analysis offer insights into contemporary psychological challenges? Join me for Dream Analysis, the midnight practice that changed psychology forever, where we shall explore the royal road to the unconscious mind. Until our next session, I am inviting you to continue the most important analytical work, understanding